What's it be
Hello,
like
everybody.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you for coming today. My name is Nicole Brill, and I am the Educational Programs Associate here at the Lynn Museum, and I have the honor of presenting our North Shore Community College students' projects, Oral Histories of Lynn. We have had the pleasure of having these students work with us all this semester, and they've done tremendous work in interviewing and preparing these amazing presentations for you today. And I'd like to thank any of the business owners who came down to listen to the presentations and for working with our students. Abby Battis, our assistant director, has been instrumental in working through this program over the past couple of years, and I will introduce Professor Nathan Kayo, who is leading this class, and we thank him for working with us.
Some people are clapping extra hard because they're worried about their grades, right? But yeah, I wanted to thank everyone for coming, first of all. This is a really good crowd for this. We've been doing this for 3 years now, I believe. And it's been growing. It's definitely been growing with the help of the museum. So I definitely want to thank the museum for hosting us, but not just for hosting us, for really helping us through the process. And I think these presentations are the best we've ever done. And it's really, well, responsible for the museum period, but definitely Nicole. I want to credit Nicole for giving us this help. And I think actually my students should perhaps give Nicole a round. I definitely want to reiterate to thank the business owners that agreed to be the interviewees for this project this semester. And really, without your help, none of this would have happened. So thank you for that. And then I'll get around to thanking my students too, because you guys have done a great job this semester. There was a tense day last week. I got a little snippy. But I really do appreciate all your efforts, and I really do mean it. I think these are the best ones we've done, and I think part of that I've pushed you a little bit, but I think you guys have really come through, and so I think that'll be reflected both in in what you're going to present today. That's where everyone will see that quite clearly. So without further ado, we'll start with the first presentation, and the first presentation will be a group presenting on the Capitol Diner right across the street.
So what makes a successful restaurant? A restaurant will become successful due to hard work, customer service, and outstanding meals. But the Capitol Diner has much more than just this. The diner offers great meals, it offers tradition and history. The Capitol Diner draws in the community with its all-American meals. Thanks to Bob Fennell and his employees, the diner has a warm and friendly atmosphere. Bob Fennell is an active member of his community and is the current owner of the diner. As a family-owned business, this diner has become a landmark in the community of Lynn. Although the generations of Lynn have changed, the diner's slogan, "Our quality and service are our tradition since 1928, has not changed." Slide. The Capitol Diner is part of a history much larger than itself. This diner, along with thousands of other diners, have shaped American culture. Diners are built on an assembly site and are transported to permanent locations. And the first diners are actually much different than diners that we know today. What really inspired diners were actually horse-drawn covered wagons that people would sell meals from. And this idea of taking transportation and making it into kind of like a place to sit down and eat kind of became like trendy, you know. If you could zoom into this one. No, sorry. Do you have can you just click on it? Or?
Oh yeah, I can.
Sorry. No, it's okay. This is one of the earlier diners that they would actually take train cars and turn them into them. And zoom out. And at first, like these early diners were a big success, but only mostly from men. You know, because they have like a really more like kind of rough like exterior to them. They're metal. You know, they just didn't really appeal to women. So what they started to do was they started to add the word "miss" in front of it in order to attract more women to these diners. Yeah. They try to put like flowers outside, you know. And if you could, can you zoom into the article that's there too? This is actually an article that says like, hey, we're not horse-drawn covered wagons. We have very good meals. Please come to these diners, please, because like we're cheap. We have like clean places for you to sit, and yeah. And the biggest drawback to diners, unfortunately, was the Great Depression. A lot of these diners, their owners ran out of their businesses because no one was going to them. You know, so people after World War II started to demand diners. They really wanted them, and over the years, diners have changed. The shapes of diners have changed, and it's just become I don't know, kind of just the American way, I guess. Even like in these paintings over here. This is Norman Rockwell, actually, and he does all these like, really cool paintings. And even the one up there, this is a famous painting of a diner, you know. And the reason why this history is significant to the Capitol diner is because it follows it really well. You know, it kind of shows you that this diner didn't just kind of like impact Lynn. It's also part of like, you know, America's history too. So we're gonna next we're gonna talk about Capitol Diner's history. So yeah.
Slide. Yeah. So this story all began in 1928 when the Brill Motor Company traveled up from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and brought a diner car to Lynn, Massachusetts, where it opened as the Miss Lynn Diner. And when it opened, it basically primarily was in the market of serving the factory workers of Lynn. Breakfast, lunch, and after-work meals and such. And it even went so far to include barber chairs in the basement where the factory workers, if they needed to, could get a shave or a haircut in between or after, before work or whatever. And that changed in 1938 when George Fennell came down from New Brunswick, Canada, and bought the diner and changed the name to the Capitol Diner, which was in reference to this theater right here, which was actually right across the street. It's an 1,100-seat theater, and George Fennell's idea was to have an affiliation with the Capitol Theater, hoping to gain more like theater patrons to come visit the diner after a movie or before a movie, and just to kind of get a more family atmosphere for the place. And after a while, like in the 40s or so, he even started to include signs outside saying that ladies were welcome, just to let them know that it wasn't just like for factory workers and all that. And it took some time, and eventually it did transition into more of a family-oriented place. And slide. In mid-1940s, 1945, 46, George's nephew Buddy came down from New Brunswick looking for factory work. But his first stop after getting off the train was into his uncle's diner, where he went in, announced that he was there, said hi, and instantly George was just like, "I'm busy, grab an apron and get to work." And basically the rest is history, because Buddy never got any factory work. He just helped his uncle out. And so he took over sometime in the 60s. And he worked the diner up until his death in 2001. A quirky little thing just to note is that if you look at the diner, and you'll see that there's a garden out front, that actually was a chicken coop at one point where Buddy held his chickens for all the eggs for the meals of the diner. Slide.
So a little information about Bob Fennell. He is not just the owner of the Capitol Diner. He has actually done many things in Lynn. He has been a teacher, a social worker. He's been on a lot of boards and programs to give back to the community. He likes to refer to himself as a short order cook with a title. So he actually goes back to the roots of his family and thinks that he is still what his dad did, which was a short order cook. And he doesn't like to forget about that. So after all this other stuff that he is, like he's a state rep and stuff, he always thinks of himself as a cook, and that's what he was to begin with. Slide. So it's the last operating Brill diner. It's actually one of two. It's been a landmark since 1928, serving the people of Lynn and the factory workers, because there used to be a lot of factories in this area. It's like a second home for people. For example, there was, Bob had a long-time customer named Bo, and one day his family walked in, and they sat down, and one of the ladies said to Bob, "You might not remember me, but I'm Bo's sister." And earlier that week, Bo actually passed away. So that was the day of the mass. So the kids and their aunt went to the diner, and they spent time there because that's where they used to go every Saturday with their dad. So it's kind of like it builds memories with families and stuff. And he actually does no advertising, so he has no TV commercials. He has nothing in the newspaper. Everything is just, you hear about the diner, you go there and you try the food, and people just keep coming back. Slide, please.
So pretty much what we wanted to show you here was the diners themselves. Old motor railway cars were eventually by this time broken down and they couldn't be used anymore. So what people did for a great resourceful and recyclable way is they took these old motor railway cars and they turned them into the restaurants and diners that you saw that were all popular back in the 20s and 30s. Slide, please. And which ties into the community. The Capitol Diner itself holds a very strong sense of community. One of the quotes we have from Bob himself is, "You can't duplicate the memories of that place. People like the warmness of the counter, that's original." Just like the story that you heard from Blake, a lot of people hold a lot of sentimental value into the memories and times that they spent at the diner, which also ties into the community of Lynn altogether. Back on November 26, 1889, there was a great fire that swept through the industrial district of Lynn, which burnt down about 380 buildings. And within half an hour of the fire burning down all that district, about 15 communities band together to come help the people of Lynn and the businesses that had burnt down. And they came together to rebuild it and save a lot of the industry that, which goes back to the Capitol Diner. In the 1970s, the Capitol Diner itself had a fire, and Bob Fennell, his father himself, had to decide and make a decision. After the fire, a lot of the business became, or the business itself, the diner, became inoperable, and he had to make a decision whether or not he was going to rebuild it and try again, or whether or not he was going to call it quits. And after a few months, he decided he was going to retry. And when he started building up the diner again, a lot of his customers, long-term customers that used to go to the diner, they would drive by, and as he was rebuilding it, they would say stuff like, "Whatever you need, don't worry about it, we'll help you." And slide.
So the future of the diner, we talked to him about the future plans. Like he said, he doesn't really want to advertise, so he wants people to come there for the food, not for the advertising he puts on TV or whatever. But one of the biggest things he does want to do is he wants to have a social media presence, as the museum is obviously trying to do as well. It's important to have a social media presence nowadays to talk about events they might be doing or changes to the menu, where they can advertise like, "Oh, we have a special menu item today," stuff like that. So it's good. He's going to try to make it Twitter and stuff like that. And besides that, we asked him who's going to take over the diner after he leaves or whatever, when he grows too old to do that, which obviously isn't anytime soon. And he doesn't really know. His two daughters are both, I think one's a lawyer, one works with the law enforcement, I think. And they aren't really too focused on, they don't really want to take over for him, but they would if they had to. But he wants to find someone really that will keep the memories going and the old-fashioned traditions going. So that's slide, please. So the menu, obviously the menu is one of the most important parts of the diner. You can have all the history you want, but you need a good menu, and I actually have one here. Just want to pass that around. So it's kind of cool. The menu evolved with the restaurant, because it used to just be like wooden boards on the side that was just like bacon, eggs, combo meals, stuff like that. But it's kind of cool, as the Lynn community, the demographic in Lynn changed, the menu changed as well. He started adding stuff like quesadillas and stuff. And he said that we asked him about what his father would have thought about that. And he said he would have called me crazy, because I believe it was 2 weeks ago, he said he was making some Nutella French toast, and his dad would have been like, "That's crazy, why are you not making bacon and eggs and stuff like that?" So he prides himself, that's what he wants people to come to his restaurant for, is the menu, and he always tries to have the best, freshest ingredients, stuff like that. So, fly.
Yeah, basically, this is just to introduce you to a couple other people that work at the diner. This is Joyce right here. She has been a waitress at the Capitol Diner since 1983, and loves every day that she goes to work because basically she recognizes every face that comes in because, you know, it really is just like a second family for most people over there as far as the regulars go. She goes in and it's just one of those, she knows all the orders before the people even sit down, and the day just flies right by for her because it's, you know, they say when you find a job that you love, it isn't work anymore. She definitely feels that way. And next door is Charlene, who has actually been the prep cook at the Capitol Diner for over 50 years. And it's basically that place does not run if she's not there. Because she gets there at 5 a.m. every day that they're open and prepares all the pancake batter and just everything like that, just gets the place looking presentable. And she really is the heart of the Capitol Diner. Slide please.
And that's pretty much it. Oh, that's our stuff.
Website.
Yeah.
Just some websites there. This is where you can reach Bob Fennell as far as if you want to like politically talk to him. And then this is just a nice diner site that you can visit if you're interested in other local diners in the area, just learning more about their history and such.
Real quick too, we'd like to thank the Lynn Museum for putting this on, of course, Professor Caio, and Bob Fennell couldn't make it today. He had a legislative meeting to go to. But thanks all for watching. And
just to let you know, they have excellent food over there.
Yeah.
And they're open all the time. I recommend the bacon cheeseburger, personally. I thought it was excellent. And yeah, thank you all for coming.
See if there are any
Are there any questions that we can answer? I forgot about that. We got so excited. Ma'am?
I just want to make out, so it's Charlene and...
Charlene and Joyce, she's the waitress.
Okay.
Anyone else?
What day of the week they are open?
Want to say that again?
What days of the
which
week?
is, I think, all 7.
Yeah, and
They close
they're,
at 2 every day.
yeah, they're only
They're open all
breakfast
7
and lunch right now.
Every day.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Great, thank you very much.
Okay, up second, we have a presentation on the Lynn YMCA and the larger history of the YMCA movement.
Hi guys, my name is Amira.
Hi, I'm Marco.
I'm Chantalise.
I'm Paul.
Hi, I'm Nicole. We're actually joining the Lynn YMCA. I work at the Saugus one, which is connected with Lynn. The history of it was a great deal to me, not only me. Our bosses unfortunately couldn't make it, the executive director, and Lynn is Audrey, and unfortunately she couldn't make it. We had an emergency staff meeting today.
So we want to thank Audrey Jimenez because she took her time of her day and her busy schedule to help us understand and interview her about the building, the history, and she was so passionate about it and couldn't thank her enough. So the YMCA, live, healthy, stay healthy. So this man, by the name of George Williams, was the founder of the YMCA. He was 22 when he founded, and the reason he founded the YMCA was because he wanted to spiritually and mentally get men out of the streets and teach them the way of a religious belief. He thought that London was in a turmoil in the sense that industrialization made it seem that it made it feel that it was organized, the cities were packed, it was very unorganized. And he found this at June 6, 1844 in London, England. So this is George Williams. So once it started spreading around the nation, like country to country, they made this logo in 1881. And as you can see, it has a quote by John the 17th, and it says that all of they may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. So this model shows that all, gave an example of how all young men should be. And they wanted to be like the disciples of God, to spread the message for each man, and not to do crime or not to like do any bad doings, with religious classes and Bible teachings.
So in 1851, Thomas Valentine Sullivan, along with a group of evangelicals from several parts of Boston, founded the first YMCA in the United States. It was over at the Huntington Avenue in Boston, Massachusetts. The idea was inspired by the YMCA over at London, and it was sort of a home away from home for many of like the sailors, because he himself was a sailor. And this place offered basically a place for gatherings, socializing, prayer meetings, and of course Bible study. As time progressed, so did the YMCA, and it reached parts of Washington Street, Summer Street, and Tremont Street. With the expansion, new services were being offered, and some of those services were class and lecture, a library, and a gymnasium. Slide.
All right, so this was actually the first fitness in Boston, in Tremont. So at the time the YMCA started, it was first both Christian and concerned with fitness. And how did Christianity fit in? Well, according to the muscular Christianity, men were not Christian unless they were muscular. So the Y was very focused on the body image. So an interesting fact, the term bodybuilding, Robert J. Robert, the first YM physical director, coined the term bodybuilding as they do use in today's model. Right, so next slide, please.
An interesting fact, does anybody know where basketball was created? Springfield? Yeah. It was in Springfield, Massachusetts, and it was actually a YMCA trainer who was trying to keep his group active, and he actually just took a peach basket and he just put it up high and he grabbed a soccer ball and he made some moves, and that's how basketball came about. Also, 4 years later, another sport was invented in Holyoke, Massachusetts. Anybody know what that is?
Volleyball.
Yeah, volleyball. Yeah. Slide.
The YMCA was unusual because it crossed the rigid lines that separated the different churches and social classes in England in those days. This openness was a trait that would eventually lead to including all men, women, and children, regardless of their race, religion, or nationality. This program strives to reintegrate the children with their families and to connect them with other resources that would help them get them off the streets. So like I was saying, it was a place where men could get off the streets, and children back then, like, they didn't really have a lot of places they could go to, so this was a good place for them to go, do something and be around people who can teach them, morals and get them away from bad things that were happening on the streets and to help them make good choices. Its target of providing needs in the community was their mission from the start. And this is
picture, and it looks like a little flyer. It says Spirit, Mind, and Body, and it's YMCA and YWCA, and so it's like women and men coming together, and it's like making a place for where these people can come and, you know, make better for themselves. So it's Build for Tomorrow Today. So they're like working together. And that's a picture of some children, and it looks like they're doing karate. And it's a cool little picture of them, you know, together. They look like they're good kids, and it's better to have them here than on the streets doing who knows what.
Yeah, so the first colored YMCA came into being in 1853, 9 years after it was discovered in London. And at that time period, slavery and segregation was still effective. So Anthony Bowen decided that a black YMCA was needed to create equality between the black and white man. Here's a bit of, he was actually born a slave. He was the first black clerk in the U.S. Patent Office. This picture right here, that's the first colored YMCA Bible study group. Zoom into the next picture, please. Yeah, and this is the first building, the first YMCA colored building.
Where was it?
It's in New York. It's actually funny. It's in New York. The first YMCA colored building, which is found in New York.
Next slide.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, just after the YMCA was established in Boston, it came through Lynn and number 20 Neptune and Boulevard. It was established in 1870. So it is the YMCA is all about a kind of a non-profit organization reaching out to people, especially in Lynn, because Lynn is a very diverse city. So they try to welcome everyone, you know, from different background, whether you're rich or whatever. So it's open to, it's not really a religious thing, but it's open to everyone, whatever religion you are. So the Lynn YMCA, before it was an independent thing, but now they kind of group together. It's a kind of association whereby they have Lynn, Saugus, Melrose, and Peabody. So in 2010, the YMCA of Metro North gave out $1 million to the community and trying to help people and to help them, you know, get out of the street. And the YMCA, the Lynn YMCA, it's more like a family-oriented, and it serves a lot of people, and you know, people that have gone out of the YMCA, they give back to the community. Like a woman, one time she used to be in a YMCA, like from 50 years ago. So because then back in the days, men and women were not allowed to swim together, but she requested that she should swim with the men, and they allowed her to do it. So she got a scholarship from Harvard University, and thereafter she became very rich, and then she wanted to give back to the Lynn YMCA. So she called back some few years ago and gave $20,000 for the YMCA to, you know, establish a computer lab. So that's the whole thing about the YMCA. Thank you. Sorry.
So these are a couple pictures, even though we don't want to zoom in all of them. This is all the kids' handprints that are in our program. We focus a lot on the families because, as everybody said, it is so diverse. We really tried to make it so that the children aren't on the streets. And it really is tough, especially in Lynn, for the fact that if you are on the streets, you're getting beat up or you're doing things that you're not supposed to. Here it's where they can come and play music and be themselves and actually act like a child and not have to grow up so fast. So as you see in this, these are a couple things, arts and crafts program that we do with the children. We have the playground outside. They get to go outside whenever it's nice out. Even if it's a little bit chilly, we're bringing them outside. This is actually something that not only did we paint as employees, but we painted with the children. They had a great time with this. They loved it. It was something for them to show what their actual, like, what was really coming from inside of them. Here, as you can see, we have the symbol GIVE. As the YMCA in general of the Metro North, as we said before, which is Lynn, Saugus, Peabody, and Melrose, we do give a lot. Giving is our biggest factor. It's our motivation. We love to give to people that are in need. Altogether, even just in Lynn itself, we give over $250,000 to families that can't afford to be in our programs or have preschool for their children. That's why our rates are so low, just so we can give to everybody. And our motto is actually in Lynn to get every single resident in Lynn to be a part of our YMCA. Over here is just a couple plaques that are in our offices. These are actually companies that have helped us with donations, because we also help them, which is the City of Lynn. You can see down here General Electric, and Eastern Bank. They support us and we support them. Next slide. What they offer for the community. The Lynn YMCA, we work every day to make sure that families are together. As we all know, it's not like it used to be with a mom and a dad and kids and a dog in a house and all happy. We have a lot of diversity. We have single moms, single dads, and we just want to make sure that they know that we're here to support them if they don't have anybody else to support them. So this over here is our history logos from, as you can see, it started in 1881. From 1967, that used to be our logo. Now we've changed it throughout all of the colors. As you can see, this is Peabody's colors. This is Saugus and Lynn kind of share these both. And then on the end we have Melrose and Peabody also. We all share the colors, we all wear them. Any color you see here, that's our shirts that we wear. As far as the YMCA goes, we are an international organization. We are all over the world. We have over 119 countries that do have the YMCA in us. The Y has been here for over 200 years, and we actually just celebrated our 145th year of the Lynn YMCA. This is actually where the Lynn YMCA is now. It's actually the second building. We had a first one, and we still have, because we have residency at the Lynn Y, we also have people that are still in our new Y from our old one living there. We asked Audrey, the executive branch director, a couple questions. I asked her, what was your purpose in Lynn especially, and why did you choose Lynn? Her answer was, the purpose of our Lynn is cause-driven organization and to be focused on the cause and the mission. The mission is to provide faculty, services, and programs to enrich all its people in spirit, mind, and body. I thought that was awesome just because right when you walk into an interview at Lynn, Saugus, any YMCA that you walk into, they're going to ask you, you know, this is our motive, this is what we want, and we try to let our members know that is also that we're always here for them no matter what. And that's it.
I would like to add an interesting fact during the first call of the YMCA. Martin Luther King actually spoke at this organization because it was the only place that allowed him to spread his voice. Any questions, please?
Why is it called YMCA?
Well, back from a long time ago, it was Young Men's Christian Association. We kind of call it the Y now because it's not only just for Christians. We have a very diverse group. But back when it started, we had that name because it was for Christians and young men that needed to be muscular. Yep.
You said it's a non-profit organization and you give back to the community. I know that a lot of families out here need daycare and stuff like that. What do you mean by you give? Because I know a lot of families can't afford daycare. Like, do you have sliding scale fees? Like, how does that work?
We have, which is access. It's the same exact thing as the sliding scale. The access is which grants us. We have our prices so low for childcare and childcare programs so that everybody can get in. If not, we go through the access, which is basically a system of we take, if you're working, if you're not, we have you fill out a form. Whether or not you get the access, no matter what, we are trying to get you in. Every button we can push, we're trying to do it in order for you guys to be a member of our association.
Any other questions?
Just a little anecdote. It's the original YMCA was on Market Street.
Yes.
And it was a great old building, and they had the track was above the gym.
Yes.
But it was a very small gym, so that made for a very small track. And as a young kid, I used to go there, and it was shaped almost like a half pipe. It was rounded, and you'd actually be running kind of like on the side.
Like tilted.
Tilted,
that's
like
how
this
it is
around.
Now. It's still like that.
Well, this was, it was like, I don't know, like 20 laps of the mile. It was very small, and you could get real dizzy going around.
Yes, you definitely can. It's funny because as we were going there, 2 runners were preparing for the marathon. While they were there, actually one was my uncle, which was funny that we walked in at that time. So a lot of marathon runners do go there and go around the track just to feel something. Keep going around, yep.
And the picture he was on, Calvin was on, he was on the track.
Yeah, he was running on the track.
That's great.
Anything else?
Thank you.
All right, next we have the group who interviewed at Zimmans.
So we did our project on Zimmans, and before we start, I just want to thank Michael for taking time to interview us and give us information and to see his store. So Zimmans was voted best in North Shore. They're a fabric store. And so the whole history of Zimmans began with Michael's grandfather, who was Morris Zimmons, and he was born and raised in Lithuania. And when he was there, I guess his first kind of in contact with business was he had a grain business with his father there. So he learned a little bit about buying and selling crops there. And when he was 19, he came to the United States, and he spoke several different languages, so this came into his favor a little after, but when he first had one of his first jobs, when he came here, he bought a ring that Michael still wears today. He told a story about it, and that was pretty cool to know that he still has that piece of history. So when he came here and he was going door to door, he basically would go to these auctions and have items to sell, and he spoke 6 to 8 different languages. So a man who opened the door in Lynn spoke Polish, and he knew how to speak to him. So he decided to stay here, and that was when he opened his first donor store in 1909 in West Lynn. And he survived the Great Depression too, because that was happening during this time, because in these auctions he would basically just be buying and selling a bunch of items from like house items like pots and pans to fabrics to everything different. So that's how he got by.
So Barry Zimmons was one of Morris's sons, and he took over. And in 1948, he created the self-service department store. And in 1957, they moved to their current building, which is right on Market Street over there. And he also created a full line of men's, women's, and children's clothes to help keep the business running. self-service on your left was when you would walk into a store and the person would come to you and help you rather than self-service, which was when you would walk in, how most stores are today. You would walk in, pick everything out yourself, and then go pay for it yourself. It's a big picture. So Michael Zimmans is the current owner. He grew up working in the store with his siblings. He told us in our interview that he didn't really like working there as a teenager because he would rather hang out with his friends. He was an art major in college and always liked design. And before he became the owner, he was a teacher, although he didn't really like teaching.
So the key tradition they kept throughout the business is to treat people well and fairly, because they felt like, fabrics and such aren't really necessities. So when people work hard, they take time out of the day to come in and buy those things. It doesn't go unnoticed. So treating people well has been an important role in maintaining business. And back when Zimmans was a department store, focused mainly on necessities, didn't care about how things looked. So when people would buy furniture such as couches or chairs, they only wanted to look good, feel good and be comfortable. Michael Zimmans brought more of a design aspect to the company, so not only do things have to feel good, they have to look good also. Slide. And that's what Zimmans looks like now.
So, Raw Artworks is an organization that helps students from ages 6 to 19. It's an organization that essentially lets these students come, and it's a safe place for them to be. And it's for kids who have an interest in art, and it's just a way to keep them off the streets and make sure they stay in school and do well. And for their 100th anniversary, Zimmans just worked with Raw Artworks for a charity event, and they upholstered 12 chairs as blank canvases, and some designers from Raw would design these chairs. Slide again. And once they were sold, all of the benefits were given to Raw so that they could have more money to keep running. So a cool fact that we found out is some of the furniture that Zimmans does have are in some major movies, including Shutter Island, The Proposal, American Hustle, and Bride Wars. And he actually told us that he was watching American Hustle, and then he completely forgot that his furniture was in the movie, and he was like, oh my gosh, that's from my store. And so that's kind of cool to find out and just hear about.
While Zimmans is now the place in the Boston area to buy luxury fabrics and furniture, Lynn has always been the place to buy luxury shoes for mostly women. In 1883, a machine was introduced to shoemakers that produced hundreds of shoes a day, and that made Lynn the shoe capital of the world. And in 1909, Morris when he first opened his store, he sold, one of the many things he sold was shoes. So this was a significant time for him because making and selling shoes were becoming more and more popular, so it created business. And he also sold things such as bedding, clothing, and linens, so it gave him a chance to promote other potentially popular items that other stores may have not had at the time. Slide. They remained in Lynn because, the store has been around for generations, and he's familiar with the area and the people, and he grew up there. It's always been a good fit, it's comfortable. And for this type of business, they need a lot of space, and if you go in the store, it's huge, just the first floor, front to back fabrics. It's a really big store. And they're not opposed to expanding in the future, but right now it just feels right. Slide. And this is a picture of the first floor of the store. I love this picture because it's just front to back fabrics. It's just huge. Fabrics everywhere. That's it. Slide. Slide again.
Anyone have any questions?
Do any of you sew? Have anyone you've been there to the store before you did the project?
No, but we were trying not to buy things as we were interviewing.
Right.
I'm not from Lynn, but over the years I've heard a lot of stories about when some of the stores got burnt down when they had the great big fire here in Lynn. Was Zimmern, am I saying?
Zimmons, that's good.
Yes, was it part of the great big fire along with the shoe factory and stuff?
I don't think so.
No, no, the fire was in this district here.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, I have some great pictures I took of it, but, you know, thank God it, well, unfortunately it hit some buildings that, you know, were devastated, but it was kind of broken off by even just this street here. And we're just a couple blocks over that way, but the big fire was more this way.
Oh,
And you
okay.
see some of those, where the community colleges, those were big old, you know, factory loft buildings that were burnt to the ground, and I think probably made better use of because they have a college there now.
I don't know if you can answer this, or Mike, you can tell us the story of the ring and the significance.
Well, that's the ring, and my grandfather came here and came to Boston in 1909 from Eastern Europe, and he went to work for someone, and he had always either worked for himself or for his family when he was in Europe, and it was in Boston, and he worked for a week, and he decided he didn't like doing that, and during that week, he had been walking around and seen in a jewelry store like a ring in the window, and he took his paycheck that he got from that week, he went in and bought the ring, and with the rest of the money he had, he bought some merchandise and just started buying and selling at that point. So, and my father wore it, and when he passed away, I'm keeping it now for my son.
Okay, our second to last group are going to present on durkee-mower and of course Marshmallow Fluff. And this, I'm particularly proud and interested in this because we have the idea that this was like the Willy Wonka impenetrable candy complex, but they somehow charmed their way in. So they put together a nice group of things.
Good afternoon, my name is Kristen, and my group and I are presenting durkee-mower. So durkee-mower Inc. We did Marshmallow Fluff. We interviewed John Durkee, and he holds the 4th title, and his grandfather is H. Allen Durkee.
We would like to thank him also for the time he gave us, because he's a busy man, as we heard, and as also as the teacher said. We all only had like negative comments, like, oh my God, you guys are not going to be able to interview him, like it's going to be really hard, and it was just like so easy. Like we called him, can we talk? Like I was on the phone with him, he was super nice. I was like, if you would be really kind. He's like, yeah, sure, you can come in. So it was really surprising for the comments we heard. So we would like to thank him for that, for giving him part time. So these are the Fluff Founders. This is Alan Durkee and Fred Mower. There's also the main inventor, which is our 12th grade. He invented fluff, not as we know it today, like as the cream, but he invented the marshmallow fluff. And he developed this recipe in his kitchen, initially selling his marshmallow fluff door to door. And in the World War I, there was serious shortage of sugar, so it was like so candy was something really special. It's not as we know it now that we can just have candy everywhere. Like it was really not as we know it today. And he came across these two partners, which at that time they were working on confectionating hard candy. That's what they were working on. And they came across query, and he sold this recipe for $500 to them, and that's when they started what we know today as the Marshmallow Fluff. They started confession on it, and it become what we know now, the secret ingredient to make it, the paste, you know. Some slide. So these pictures were on the daily item, and it's like a little comic that talks a little bit about each one. And as this one, for example, we have over here, like, he's a football player, like his partner right over here, and then like a little bit like an image of him in the war. Then we have the other picture of Fred Mower, where I would like to like point out some things, like right over here where it says that if we get through this alive, how about going into business? And then it says it's a deal. And actually has this little part over here which I found really interesting that says Island Durkee, that they came into business with only $1,000. That's how they started the business, with only $1,000, which back then was probably a lot. So then I have actually this one over here where it says the durkee-mower company is one of the North Shore most successful enterprises, and their product, Marshmallow Fluff, is known everywhere. So slide. We have right over here, right as we know Fluff right now, you guys probably have never seen them advertising on TV or anywhere, because they do not do advertisement, but once they did advertisement, it was through radio in 1930, and they began to sponsor the weekly Yankee radio station. They will call themselves the Flufferettes radio show, and this show they will have included like live shows. They will have like the drama moments of the moment. They will talk about like what was going on, like the drama of that moment. Then they will actually, this was really interesting because they will actually have this, what we know over here at the end of the episode, they will publish a recipe that was made with fluff, let's say like a pie, a cake, some recipe that would include fluff. Like at the end of the episode, they would just go ahead and say the recipe of the day, and they would just say it. So that was like one of the recipes that was in this book, the Yummy book. This side. And this is the Fluff Factory where we went to interview him. This office was built in 1940, but it was a shoe factory back then, and they did not bring in the warehouse like durkee-mower until 1960. It's exactly as it was. He actually says that it hasn't changed at all. Like you still see the wooded inside. They have the posters of the comics, like the little daily items that we showed like at the beginning. They have like hanging around in the office. It's exactly the same. But now the only difference is that they have like a little museum inside of the office where you can see like the cans, like how the evolution, like how they went from a jar to like the plastic bottle we have now. And this is where it's located. If you zoom in right over here, it's in 2 Empire Street, Lynn. It's right like, well, it's not right around the corner, but it's here in Lynn, so it's local right over here to the side. Then we have the Fluff Ingredients, what you see over here, which is the corn syrup, sugar, dried eggs, vanilla, and it's gluten-free actually, which is really helpful because nowadays that's something that is up to date. And then slide. We have the different fluffs, which as today most of us will only know the vanilla because the raspberry and the strawberry are more for shipping like to other countries, like when they ship, for example. These are really known, those different flavors in the shipping overseas. And I actually want to make a comment about the advertisement, like to point that out, like the advertisement. He says it's not needed, the advertisement to advertise the fluff, because we know it right now, like he says it sells itself. Like it will be like overdoing it because it's just a product that sells itself. And then we actually had this question for him saying why does he stay in Lynn? Why doesn't he make it a big, like somewhere else, like a bigger factory? And he made this comment that it will just be, it's good where it is because that building is paid off. Like they don't need to go ahead and go beyond it because it will be like selling a new product, that it's a product they already have, but they will have to sell it as a new one. They will probably not make a profit until they work on the building and everything. So that was something I thought it was interesting, because he said, we will keep it here because it's just going along itself, like it's doing it itself, it's working itself. Slide.
I'm going to talk about the uses of fluff. When we interview him, actually, fluff can be used to make fudge, sandwich, spread, and as topping. You can also use it here in a cheesecake, and Lynn Cheesecake, they actually use 7.5 ounces of the fluff itself, so it's mostly filled with fluff. And you can use it to make, put it in hot chocolate, you can put it in cookies, just to like have a feel of it. And some people can actually use it to make bread, different kinds of bread too. Slide.
So, at the beginning, Fluff did some advertisements just to spread the product out. And these are some of the ones that they put in the newspaper. Like, could you shop for a gift, but then couldn't you lick the ball? Like, hello, you need some fluff. And then the next one, it talks about a little bit of the fluffinator, how you would put a little bit of the fluff in a side of bread and then peanut butter on the other side. This was a fluff company that first created it. And then the next slide is a TV show, if you want to play it.
Oh, you need fluff, fluff, fluff to make a fluffer nutter. Marshmallow fluff and lots of peanut butter. First you spread, spread, spread your bread with peanut butter. Add marshmallow fluff and have a fluffer nutter. When you enjoy, joy, joy your fluff and peanut butter, you're glad you have enough for another fluffer nutter.
Then these are some of the fluff competitions. We have craft, solo, and also craft became with the, I would say, they kind of copied the first fluff by saying the same ingredients, like, oh, you would put a slice of peanut butter and then another slice of fluff, and then just mix it and how to eat it. But it was basically the same. They're just trying to copy and spread their product more out, although there's no fluff like fluff. Sorry. Then we have Fluff Fans. This is a Fluff Fan page. His name is Steve Ruth. He used to be a native from Marblehead, but unfortunately he had to move to California. And he's a huge fan. He says that on the description, he says that since he can remember, he used to eat fluff every single day. So since he moved to California now, he has to get fluff shipped over there because unfortunately they don't sell it. And if you see the video, he also has these, actually.
Whoa, I'm a fluffer-nutter. Our fluff goes great with peanut butter. Breakfast, lunchtime, or supper. Hashtag, I'm a fluffer-nutter.
So as we can tell, he's a huge fan. He also has these raffles on Facebook of like international, like whoever takes like a nice picture of eating fluff or like a fluff product, he gives away like free fluff, yeah. Next slide. And then we have What the Fluff? This is a all-day affair dedicated to the Fluff Fans. Is an all-day affair dedicated to the Fluff Fans in Somerville. All the food at the event is only fluff-based. They also have 2 contests, which is the cook-off, which is like whatever tastes best from made out of fluff, and then they also had the science fair. So if you can click the next slide, these are some of the products that they sell and how much it will be. And then for the cook-off product, the winner will receive this trophy with the strawberry fluff attached to the side, and also a tour towards the fabric and a 1-year supply of fluff. I know, fluff for 1 year. Ooh. And then this will be for the science fair, whoever wins it. The science fair fluff is basically who can connect electricity through fluff. It's kind of interesting if you search more about it. And then we have Fluff Gives Back to the Community, a small company with only 23 employees, most of them from the Lynn community. Working for over 20 years, the majority of Fluff employees are from the Lynn community. He has donated to the Boys and Girls Club in the Lynn community, and also he's really proud that his employees live locally of this company. Next slide. And the future for Fluff, he says, I don't know what in the future your company is going to be. I will let you know in 10 years. I would think if one of my sons were interested in it, it could be in the next 10 years. Otherwise, we'll end up selling the company. Unfortunately, we don't want that to happen because we still want more Fluff to come. So yeah, next slide.
So yeah, that was our presentation on Fluff. We want to thank John Durkee. He couldn't make it here today because he's a very busy man, and we want to thank him because he gave us time to interview him, which he doesn't do at all. We also want to thank our teacher, Nathan, and the students for giving us ideas on our presentation.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
That's it.
Any questions?
One of your slides mentioned the Fluff Black Market.
Yes. Oh yeah. So the Fluff Black Market, it all came up because we were in the interview, and I definitely skipped that. Sorry. That we were in the interview, and I asked him like, oh, I heard this thing that Fluff is only here, and only in certain places. But I used to live in Spain, and I said I tried Fluff in Spain for the first time. And he's like, well, what was the label, and was it in Spanish or in English? And I was like, oh, it was in English. He's like, well, then that's the black market of Fluff, because if, let's say you try Fluff in France, like the labeling should be in French, like it shouldn't be English, and if it is in another language, that means they just like, it's a black market of Fluff. Let's say New York like went and gave it to a little store, and that's the black market of Fluff. Like it wouldn't go through him. So that's why, yeah, it was really interesting.
Is he doing anything to like thwart the black market manufacturers?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
He wants the product to keep spreading around. I mean, the more people that try the product, the more people are going to keep asking for it.
Yeah.
And they do sell it on Amazon. Any more questions?
Did you get to try Fluff when you went to the
Yes,
factory?
he gave us free bottle.
Free Fluff. Yeah, he took it like out of the belt, and he gave us like the hot Fluff.
They just fresh made up.
Yeah.
How was the tour? You might have mentioned it a little bit.
Unfortunately, he couldn't give us a tour towards the company, but whoever wins out of the Fluff event, the affair that they have, they will get a full tour towards the whole company, the whole factory.
Yeah, but we only went into his office, like
yes.
that was it.
It's interesting that more than 50 years ago, we used to go as a school group to the factory, and they would give you a tour, give you a jar at the end of it, and it was a highlight of the year. It was great.
We did get the jar, but unfortunately we couldn't get the tour.
Yeah,
But hey, we got some free Fluff.
I would love to go and see how everything works, but no. Any other questions? No? But this is
Okay, we have one last interview, and last but not least, we have the last group who did their presentation on South of the Floor. So, we'll take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for coming. I want to just take a moment to say thank you to Salvi and his family for waiting through the entire presentation. So we're group 2, and our group is presenting a brief oral history of Salvi the florist. We interviewed Salvi Migliaccio Jr. and learned about the blending of 2 families, the Migliaccios and the Di Benedettos, 4 generations of an Italian immigrant family in Lynn. So currently there are 3 locations of Salvi the florist. The first is at 181 Broadway in Lynn, which is actually where we met with Salvi. at 470 Humphrey Street in Swampscott, where I also visited briefly. And, I'm sorry, we met Salvi at the Western Ave location, 793 Western Ave. And having seen 2 out of the 3 of the locations, I can say that they were both very different, and I can see how that would attract different kinds of customers to the different locations. I don't know if that was conscious or not, but slide. So we learned a little bit about the history of the family and how they came to Lynn. Salvi's mother, Connie, was already in Lynn. She was actually born, if you're standing at the Western Ave location and you look across the street, this house is where Connie Di Benedetto was born. In Edwards Court in Lynn. Can you zoom back out? So she was the first generation of the family to be born in Lynn, and the family was from Forenzia, which is in southern Italy. She actually traveled, and you can go to the next slide, please. If you just forward through the slides, it will. No. Can you go back? There. So the lovely lady in the center is Connie Di Benedetto, and she is actually getting ready to board a ship to go to Naples to meet her future husband, Salvi Sr. Some of the other people in the photograph, and I hope to God I get this right, this is Connie's mother, and her sister was married to Tony the florist. So, slide. When Salvi Sr. came back to Lynn, he went to work during the day for his uncle at Tony the florist and learned the business from his uncle. And then at night, he would go and work at Napoli Pizza and make pizza at night, which was typical of a lot of immigrant families during the 50s and 60s, that they not only would work for family, but they would also work 2 or 3 jobs. Slide. In 1962, Salvi Sr. went off on his own and actually opened a store at the Western Ave location. And so Salvi and Connie they set up house on Vine Street in Lynn and began their family together. So that now Bert's gonna just tell us a little bit about the history of this.
Well, in 1912, there was a large wave of immigration. Pre-World War I, Italy was like 2 countries back then. It was politically divided. So when they arrived here, they still had their skills. Can you zoom on that, the greenhouse? No, well, yeah, okay. Here's the family and they stayed together then. It was mostly, even when they arrived here, they all lived in the same neighborhood, and okay, go to the next slide. Oh, this is where, could you zoom in on Forenza? Yeah. And this is, you can see how it was clustered, and now so you can see the community was, and they supported each other, and they were, and you can see the, well, it's probably, grapes and olives, and that's what they did. They worked with, this is what's led them into, actually got into they were close to the earth back then, and you didn't have, you had to like grow your own food because there was no Stop and Shop or Curry Supreme or, okay, go to the, zoom into that, yeah, okay.
Back?
No. I want to get, well, go back to, I want to get the north end.
Sorry, right here, what does it say?
Okay, there it is, thank you. Yeah. Could you zoom in on that? And if you go there, that's one of my favorite areas of Boston. I walk there a lot, and you'll still hear the language, the culture, and just look at, now you can see it's still a community. I mean, it was amazing, because I came from a rural area of New England, not in the big city, and just the flavor of it. And you'll actually smell, in the summer, you smell like, garlic and olive oil, and, and they just work with it, they're very family-oriented people. And I also go to the, I think it's the Bella Cava Festival they have every summer. And it's the music, it's like their whole culture of it. And you can see all those bricks. Those didn't lay themselves. When they first got here, they had to join like the Knights of Columbus, and you'll still see a Sons of Italy Hall in the North End, which is amazing. They still. And another society is still, they still meet. It's called the Patria e Lavoro Society, which means work to labor society. Which, when you didn't have unemployment. The New Deal wasn't here yet, and they realized the American dream when they hit the shores of this country. So, is there any more slides on there? I don't know if I got. Oh, well, I guess.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. The Boston Flower Exchange. This was founded in 1892. The location that's listed on Albany Street in Boston is actually the second location. Suppliers there sell many different kinds of flowers, cut flowers, and this is where Salvi Sr. would go in the morning, every morning. 5 a.m. would get up and go down to Boston to get fresh flowers for their arrangements. And it would last, his day would last until 9 p.m. at night. So it was a very time-consuming job. He put a lot of hard work, like Bert was saying about just coming here like they knew how to work, they knew how to get things done. Those that were migrating over from Italy. And if we can just zoom in to the exchange, this is, it's still set up basically the same way that it was set up back when it began. Not much has changed. And in companies and in industries over the years, a lot changes. And this is one thing that hasn't really changed within the flower industry. It's a billions of dollars a year industry. So can we have the next slide? And it's also open all year round as well. It's really helped to better local businesses. Back before they had the exchange, it was all locally grown. Big part of the reasoning was due to things like refrigeration, and they just couldn't do it. Now flowers come in from like Ecuador, Central America, and other places of that, just not here. And it allows salvies, particularly, to bring out flowers that wouldn't be in season here or can't be grown here, and it makes for nice arrangements.
So Salvi Sr. opened a small shop on Western Ave, and the way it was described to me was that this half of the building wasn't there, and this half of the building was for small shops. One of them was a coffee shop, another one was some kind of a phone store. I don't think it was a T-Mobile, but some kind of a phone store. And they were all like small, skinny stores that went pretty far back. When you're inside, you can actually see that it's like a split level. So there'd be like a place in a workshop in the far back of the store where they would do the arrangements. And as the other businesses left the building, Salvi kind of expanded and took over that whole block. Across the street was Young's Furniture, which was another Lynn business that was there for a very long time. And the right-hand side of the building was their parking lot. And Salvi Sr. actually bought that lot and expanded and built the extension onto the building, and that was the greenhouse. At one point, the business had 5 different locations, and like I said earlier, there are currently 3. Slide.
Hi, my name is Denise. So I'm going to take you into the future, and the future is about growing with technology. At Salvi's, as you can see, I don't know how many own iPhones, but you can see what you can get sent. So basically, so going into the future, Salvy's never touched a computer. He realized the more the business grew that he wanted to draw his customers in and make them happy by showing them what they created and making sure they were happy before he delivered their arrangements. So by doing that, 15 years ago, if I'm correct, in 2000, he launched the online, which is this right here. You can build your own bouquet. By doing that, you can go to design a bouquet. I myself went on the website and I played around with it. I love playing on the computer, you know, I love doing things myself. So you pick your own colored vase, your bouquet, you know, you arrange it the way you want to, and before you send it, you basically, make sure it's what you want before you send it. The prices are reasonable. There were different features on there as well that you can click on. You can sign up for his email address, and there was another website for customers' reviews as well. I don't have that on here, but I will read a couple of the customers' reviews. The good thing I liked about the design your own bouquet part was basically having customers being happy. One of the customers in the reviews was Cassie D. from Malden back in 2013. She stated, "It does not get any better than Salvy's, the florists. They are friendly, fast, and they make the most," yeah, you could just stay on there, thank you. "The most beautiful arrangements regardless of your bouquet. I use Salvy's for work. I have come to love their arrangements so much that I started using them for personal flowers, and now I am going to call them for my wedding." I thought that was really a good comment because not many people go back to the same place where they purchase flowers. And she wasn't disappointed at all. She was very satisfied. Another person that I wanted to point out was Dawn F. from Andover, and this was back in 2014, April. This customer was in a pinch, needed flowers for a funeral, called the same day and got same-day delivery. After reading reviews on Yelp, and you can go to yelp.com if you want to read more, they chose to go with Salvy's and were very happy. They completed their order online using Design a Bouquet, as I mentioned, which was very easy. Within a few hours, a picture was sent before delivering the order. Another happy customer. Once again, Design a Bouquet, and it gets sent to you in a matter of hours, and you're happy. Another customer, Steve F. from Salem, Mass., April 2013. After being a faithful customer for over 5 years, to make our 2 restaurant windows look good with window box plants. They are always amazing. We've always had them deliver flowers several times over the years. Always beautiful. Salvy's, we recommended to many folks over the years, and I thought this was kind of funny and cute. He said, "Salvy, you have a magnificent beard in the universe." And I'm just laughing because I thought it was cute, and he doesn't have a beard today. Salvy is a true work of art. I couldn't find anything negative about your florals at all. My husband uses it for Valentine's Day, my anniversary. My brother uses it. This is so hands-on, easy. Like I said, you sign up for newsletters, discount to corporates, the delivery is on time, and if you go on the website, he always changes I don't know if everyone can see, but he always changes this little block. Like this month it was for Easter, so I know he'll be changing it because Mother's Day is coming up. Then there's Father's Day. I don't recall giving my husband flowers for Father's Day, but I'm pretty sure. But he always switches up the website for every holiday. And it's very hands-on, it's easy. You can't go wrong. And if you can't, I know there was one customer, I didn't write it down, called up, she needed some flowers for her friend. Her friend was feeling down, she lost someone. He said, no problem, walked her through it over the phone. He said, I'll send you a picture. And she was way in New York, the friend was here in Lynn. Loved the flowers. Didn't have no disappointment at all, so Salvy's awesome. Oh, slide.
Well, as you know, as the world keeps changing, there's not a lot of small businesses, there's not a lot of family-owned businesses that are still around. And Salvy's is just that. You know, it's a small family business, you know, that was started by immigrants coming over, and they have sustained throughout the generations. Everyone in Salvy Jr.'s family is a part of the company and is also a part of the community. And that, I believe, is very important in, you know, when it comes to local businesses. And so, one, it's generational. Salvy Jr. Grew up in this area. He went to Lynn Classical, you know, for high school. And also now, when he's working, he'll still have people coming in and being like, hey, your father, you know, did my wedding arrangements, you know. And now his sons, like his son Anthony, I'm sure gets the same thing. You know, where it comes in, oh, your father or your grandfather. And it's just like Denise was saying, this long line of people that continue to use Salvy the Florist because of who they are, their great quality, what they represent in the community. They've become a kind of icon within Lynn. And so also too, you know, Salvy, he's not a pencil pusher. You know, like he's got great ideas. You know, they did the website, they got, you know, see what you send, but he's not a pencil pusher. He's on the ground floor, he's working in the shops, he's working with his family, with his other employees, which aren't very many. He has not very many other employees. I think that they've been there long term. You have someone there that's been there for about 7 years, someone who's been there 15 years, another person's been there 18 years. I mean, it's just, you know, so not only is all these, you know, good things that have come together because of who they are as people, but, you know, it's also sustained their business and their employees. They obviously like working there, and that speaks highly of any company and any business. If we could hit the slide. Within the community, Salvy has been very much involved. He was elected in '91, city councilor at large. He was city council president for 6 years. He also served as the chairman of the sewer commission. I bet that was a fun job. And before that was Chamber of Commerce president for 5 years in the 80s. And his son Anthony is now involved in the Chamber of Commerce. So right there, the generations are, you know, starting to really come into play, and that's just, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see and to learn about. In 2013, Salvy the Florist donated $10,000 to the City of Lynn to help fund lights for the primary Little League baseball field and softball field. And this is just one great example of how they are involved in helping. And I believe Dante is a part of the Little League here in Lynn. So they're, again, here's a young man growing up within the city of Lynn and being involved. And it's really a pleasure to see. And now with North Shore Community College and with Professor Kayo's class, he's also involved, taking time out of his day, is doing floral arrangements. I mean, it's an everyday deal. And he's taken time out of his day to allow us to interview him and to give us information, and even being here today and supporting this group with him and his family is just, thank you. Thank you for coming and being a part of this. And does anybody have any questions?
I was actually told that Anthony and Salvi Rocco had to flip a coin to decide who was going to get to come here. I was wondering who was actually at the shop because you're all here. I'm glad I could make it. Thank you.
You know how you mentioned about the website? Does it have an app? Because you mentioned about it also has an iPhone. There's not an app. It's just the website you go into it, right?
It says Design Bouquet, so
see what you send.
See what you send. There's no app. You mean an app like you can put on your iPhone?
Yeah, and you can do it through there.
No, I didn't see that.
Okay. Good stuff.
The app is for us and like other businesses. So, like in the shop, we have a phone, have the phone, and we just take a photo of the arrangement and put, your name, your email address, and your phone number, and then it automatically sends an email to you, so you see what you sent.
Nice.
We use for other flower shops, so it's just a tool to get you that photo, and for us to be able to organize it all.
The family employees still make the early morning trips to the flower exchange on Albany Street?
Occasionally, that whole part of that whole side of the industry has changed also.
Yeah.
I guess that's very good for my sons, that it's not necessary to be there at 5 o'clock in the morning.
That's good.
When growing up with my father, that was a necessity. But the internet and transportation, refrigeration,
Right.
cultivation, being able to bring product in throughout the country and the world through distribution channels other than simply the flower exchange, where that was in the Northeast was a primary flower buying facility, and there's only 3 in the country, and but now today with companies that are not located in the flower exchange, they're actually companies that have left the flower exchange and started distribution facilities of their own. And so it's a lot of technology, phone sales, and things like that. And my habits were always to continue on, getting up early in the morning. And as I passed that primary responsibility to my son Anthony, he says, "I think I'll learn a new way." He has, and it's been very good for them and my business.
Thank you.
All right, that brings our program to a close, and I want to thank again, especially all the people who are here in the audience one more time.
As a follow-up,